Could I get a grande iced vanilla latte with soy milk and an extra shot of espresso?
Like something I can do? Anything else for you today?
It's good. You know, sometimes you be f***ing up your orders. Hey guys, so as you can tell, I'm back in with yet another video, and today's video is highly requested. Ever since I uploaded my college reaction video and my AP score video, everyone has been asking me to film something talking about my high school stats, and that is exactly what I'm gonna do today. I got my drink and my other drink, and I'm ready to go. I also printed out my Common App and parts of my UC application to help me figure out what to say in this video. If y'all didn't know yet, I'm going to USC in the fall, and all I had to do was pay $500,000 and pretend I was on the rowing team to get in. No, I'm kidding. Like, I did not pull an Olivia Jade. I worked hard. So I wanted to share with you guys my journey and just a little bit of background, and I wanted to debunk the myths that you have to have perfect scores and all this other BS to get in, because that is not true. So I remember when I was in high school, I'm acting like it was so long ago. I was literally in high school like 2 months ago. But specifically during like the college application season, I would watch so many of these videos, and I just wanted to know, what is the secret to getting into college? And there is no freaking secret. Obviously, people have different privileges. I've had some opportunities that many people never get, but the difference between me and other people is that I've taken the opportunities that I've been given and I've used them. I've utilized them to my benefit, and I've learned from my experiences, and I have really like made something of them. I haven't just traveled, I've done stuff with that. Like, I don't know how to describe this, it'll make more sense later, but I just want to get into this. So I have 5 sections I want to get through today. I have testing, grades, extracurriculars, essays, and rec letters. So starting off with the testing, everyone wants to know, like, what was your ACT score? It was 31 composite. That was my ACT score. I hate the trend where everyone's like, oh, I didn't study for this, like, but I got this perfect 36 in my ACT. Like, that's not how it works. If I had studied, maybe I could have gotten a better score. I hit 30 and I was like, let me just take it again. And I hit 31 and I was like, okay, that's great. Like, whatever, I'm done. Like, once you hit 30, the grading scale like widens. The difference between a 28 and a 30 could be like 4 questions, but a difference between a 30 and a 32 could be 1 question. Do you see what I mean here? So I had calculated my raw score and I got a 31.25, which rounds down to a 31. And if I had gotten 1 more question right on my science portion, it would have been a 31.5 and I would have gotten a 32 overall. So all that is to say, don't stress about it. If you're trying to go to a top school, like top 25, if you're trying to go to the Ivies, like obviously like take this advice with a grain of salt, like you do you boo, like work hard. But what I'm trying to say is you don't have to have a perfect ACT score. Once you hit 30, I feel like that's a good benchmark. Obviously you can get in with lower scores, you can get in with higher scores, but for me, I didn't really stress too much about that standardized score. Also, my super score was like a 32, 33, and a super score is basically just like if you take the test more than once, they take like the best out of your best out of each test and combine them. But your composite score is what you should be like working towards. And I took the test with writing since that's what all my schools required. Getting a 31 put me at the 95th percentile of all ACT takers. So that was good, not perfect, but like. Moving on to other tests are my AP subject tests. When I applied to college, I had only taken 5 APs. In total of like all of high school, I took 12 AP classes and I took 10 AP tests. If you want to see the reactions to my senior year test scores, I'll leave that video linked in the description. I'll probably put like a card too. But when I applied, I submitted 5 AP scores. I took world history sophomore year, I got a 4. Took English language and composition junior year, I got a 5. Took physics my junior year and I got a 3. Took Spanish language junior year, I got a 4. And I took A-Push US history and I got a 4. Took that my junior year. So those are the 5 scores I submitted. My senior year, I took 7 AP classes. I took 7 AP classes my senior year. Those were statistics, Spanish literature, environmental science, English literature and composition, macroeconomics, government, and politics. Yeah, that was it. And I only took 5 of those tests though. Again, you can look at the video if you want to see that. These were my test scores. Moving on to grades, GPA, all that. I was ranked 79th out of like 100. No, not 100. No, 79th out of 740 kids, something like that. So I was on the cusp of the top 10% of my class, and my GPA was about a 4.1. And onto classwork that contributed to my GPA. I just want to say, when you're in high school, try to take classes that relate to your major. Since I applied as an architecture, sustainable design major, I took classes that relate to design and environmentalism, stuff like that. So all throughout high school, I took honors, pre-AP, AP classes. But some of the classes that I really wanted to take to show that I was interested in my major were like design related classes, and not all of those were AP, not all of those gave me extra credit. So that in turn hurt my GPA by taking a regular class, but it showed the admissions boards that I cared about my subject. So for example, I took freshman year, I took Principles of Arts, AV Tech and Communication, which is like a graphic design communication class. And then I took Principles of Architecture and Construction. Those were regular classes. So I was not able to get a +10 and go over the 100 scale to get like 105, like my AP classes would allow me. But it showed that I was interested in my major. Sophomore year, I took Pre-AP Art 1. And then junior year, I took Drawing 2. And then I took interior design, and senior year I took AP Studio 3D design. Taking my studio class senior year helped me so much. It was basically like a freelance class where I was able to do whatever I wanted, as long as it was like sculpture related, obviously. And it also helped me prepare for my college portfolios. And I'm just so thankful that I had that class, and my teachers, they're also supportive. Like, I'll get to that later in my rec letters. So those are just some of the classes I took. What I'm trying to say is, even if you have to take regular classes that will hurt your GPA doesn't matter in the sense that it's like the end all be all. Of course, get good grades, but if you take a regular class that ends up hurting your GPA, if it shows that you're interested in that subject and it's a class that you actually really enjoy, you could use that teacher for rec letters. You could, and it could also give you experience that will help you in your portfolios, and it's a good way to show the admissions board that you're actively pursuing your major while you're still in high school. Oh, something I forgot to mention was I went into high school with a few credits. I already had 2 language credits. I moved to Texas during my freshman year, but while I was in middle school, I got 2 language credits that counted towards high school credit. I got credit for German 1 and German 2. I lived in Germany, so like I took German, duh. I also took Spanish, but they only gave me credit for the German. So I ended up with 6 language credits, since I had 2 going to high school from Germany, which already satisfied my requirement, but then I had 4 years of Spanish in high school. So that definitely set my application apart, showing interest in subjects like that, like language. And then I also went into high school with a credit in algebra that I earned in middle school. Moving on to my extracurriculars, the College Board, or not the College Board, the Common App, I think gave you like 10 spots for those. So I have them all right here, and I couldn't put everything on here that I was involved in, but I put the stuff that related to my major again. A lot of people talk about this like pointy student that you want to be. They want a well-rounded class, not a well-rounded student, if that makes sense. Your major is engineering, and you're over here involved in stuff like dance, music, blah, 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 stuff that has nothing to do with engineering. That's great, but they're just kind of like, well, where's the engineering? Like, what are you doing to help your major? So if you want to be an engineering major, be in the robotics club. Try to be president of like Math National Honor Society, something like that. You don't want to be like all artistic and then want to do a subject that has nothing to do with art. Of course, dip and dabble and do what you want, like enjoy your extracurriculars, choose ones that you really have a passion for, but also keep in mind something that could be career prep.
Let me just clarify what I just said. I'm definitely not trying to tell you to ditch extracurriculars that don't directly relate to your major. If you are an engineering major and you love the piano, don't ditch playing the piano to find something else that relates to engineering. What I'm just trying to say is try to include extracurriculars that do relate to your major. Of course, you need to have other subjects that you're inspired by and that you love doing that don't relate to your major. Keep doing those. You need a break from your major every now and then, but definitely try to incorporate different activities that could be career orientated and that could appeal to colleges.
So for me, my first extracurricular that I put down was being a Girl Scout ambassador. I've done Girl Scouts since I was like 9 years old, all the way up into senior year. Senior year, I was not like selling cookies to people. I was helping the younger students. And that was something that was a really, really, really big time commitment for me. And I ended up getting approval for my Gold Award. And a Gold Award is like the highest level achievement you can get as a Girl Scout. This sounds freaking crazy, but I made a documentary on sustainability and I'm editing it currently. I can upload that for y'all if y'all like to see that. And again, sustainability, that has to do with my major. I involved Girl Scouts in extracurricular and I took it and made it to fit my major. That just showed I was pursuing my interests outside of school, and I was using another extracurricular that I was already involved in to spread the word. And it's also just a great organization to be involved in. It's like girl power, obviously, and I was helping younger members. So again, getting involved in the community. The next extracurricular I was involved in was Multicultural Club. I did that from 9th through 12th grade, and I got a leadership position my junior year and I kept that my senior year, I was creative director. So again, artistic, architecture, duh. And with the multicultural club being creative director, I like made all the posters and I like designed activities and stuff for us to do. So that was just another way of showing like my artistic expression. The next section was career orientated, and this was an activity I did junior and senior year. I was in FCCLA, which is Family, Career, and Community Leaders of America, and I was an interior design competitor. So again, interior design architecture. In FCCLA, me and two other girls competed against people in our region, and we ended up placing first, and we had to give this presentation in front of a board of judges, a panel of judges, that's what I'm trying to say. And we had to design a home that was complied with ADA regulations, which is Americans with Disability Act regulations, while also fitting our consumers' desires. Like, we had to make an eclectic style house. So again, architecture, like duh. And we ended up placing first at the regional competition, and we were state qualifiers, so that was a really big thing. And then my next activity was work, and I was a sales associate. I still am, actually have work after this, but I am a sales associate at Yogurtland, and I did that my sophomore, junior, and senior year. So I have freaking 3 years of work experience, and that is something that I did on weekends and after school and through school breaks and things like that. Like, that just shows that I'm committed to something that isn't school related. It's an outside of school activity, and I'm getting paid for it, making some money on the side, but that is something that I would include in my application. If you have a part-time job, that is a very, very big time commitment, and it shows that you're responsible, so definitely include that in your application. My next activity was environmental, again, sustainable design, environmentally conscious design. So I did something environmental. I was in environmental club 11th and 12th grade, and 12th grade I ran for office and I got elected as secretary. I had to compete against people I knew. I had to give a speech. I had to like put myself out there, but I did it and I was elected. Again, another big time commitment with the environmental club. As secretary, I had to coordinate with sponsors and adults, again with the rest of the club, to plan activities and like get the word out. But as secretary, I mainly had to keep track of members, so again, showing my responsibility. We also did some pretty big things with the environmental club. Like, we made a butterfly way station, which is like a little garden for butterflies, and it's actually working. So that was a really cool experience for me. My next activity was art related, and I got the varsity letter in art, which, you know, you can get varsity letters for sports. We'll talk about that later, but I got it in art as well, which just shows that I was like very, very committed. And I was a varsity letter in art my 11th and 12th grade years. Okay, sorry if my camera changed a little bit. My phone actually overheated, so I had to like cool it down and put it back up. But back to art. Again, I was a top scorer at the Regional Visual Arts Scholastic event. So that's like vase. I got the top scores of my pieces, which is like a score of 4. I won the Hudson District Art Show. I placed 3rd in the Yellow Rose Challenge, designing a logo for a Texas politician. And I also, this wasn't on this part of the application, but it was on the UC application. They give you a spot to like list your awards. I got the letter K in art drawing 2, which was my junior year. So that's basically an award where your teacher picks like their favorite student, like I guess you could say that. But it's where the teacher picks a student that has like a high grade point average in the class, who also demonstrates like an interest in the class outside of it. So that's what I got from my junior year teacher in art, and I also got that from my senior year teacher, but obviously I couldn't include that on my application. And then my next one was athletics, which didn't have anything to do with my major, but it was something that took up a lot of my time. I did volleyball and basketball my freshman year, but I didn't include that in my application. I only included track, and I did that my sophomore, junior, and senior year. I did JV, and then I did varsity. And then my next activity was community service related. It was Green Cord, which is an organization. It's just a service organization where we track our hours, and if you get to 100 hours each year, you get a Green Cord. And I did that my junior and senior year, so I had 200 hours of service, and I mainly volunteered at my local library, and I also volunteered at Habitat for Humanity. Habitat for Humanity is a company that is known for like building houses for underprivileged families or like just communities that need it. So again, architecture related. And then one of my last activities was research. I did that junior and senior year. I worked with my A-push teacher, who ended up writing me a recommendation letter, and we helped him go through like our town's history. Like, we found principles from like the 1920s and just like uncovered things about our town. I hope this makes sense. Like, I really don't know how to describe it. And then so to do that, I had to work with teachers and alumni, and we had to do a lot of research. So that was just something I included in there. And then my last activity that I put on my Common app was a member of the National Honor Society, NHS. Like, If y'all are applying to like top schools, I'm sure you're in NHS. Y'all know what that is. I got in junior year and I did it senior year as well. I also did National Art Honor Society, but I didn't have space to fit that on my Common App. I think I put that on my UC application though. So again, just choose extracurriculars that you really care about, and if you can put something in there that shows that you're interested in your subject, like how I did environmental stuff and the design related architecture things, that makes colleges more likely to accept you since they see that you're serious about your major. It shows that you have a desire to do that in real life. You have to show that you have a little bit of experience or a desire to get experience. Moving on to the writing portion, which is the essays. My main Common App essay was about a water bottle. I'll read the question that I had to answer. It was, describe a problem you solved or a problem you'd like to solve. It could be an intellectual challenge, a research query, an ethical dilemma, anything that is of personal importance, no matter the scale. Explain its significance to you and what steps you took or could be taken to identify a solution. So for me, again, environmentalism is something that is big in my life. I wrote my essay starting out with a story. It was a real life story. Obviously, don't make up crap. Like, they can see through that. Don't make up a story that is not true. Just don't do it. So this pivotal moment happened at 6:27 a.m. and I was on my way to track practice. My friend was waiting outside for me, and I'm just kind of summarizing the essay. My friend was waiting outside for me. She texted me like, I'm here, and I went downstairs to go get my water bottle filled up. I realized my water bottle was dirty. Like, I couldn't just take it out and use it. So I had to choose if I wanted to be an environmentalist and do what I preach, like do what I say, and wash out this bottle, take my time, be late for practice, but use a reusable bottle, or if I wanted to go run and get a plastic disposable bottle out of the refrigerator. And I chose to wash that bottle. And the reusable bottle became a symbol of my ethical dilemma. And then I tied that little story, that little analogy of my bottle being a symbol for my ethical dilemma, I tied that into my high school experience. And I talked about how in AP Environmental Science, how we watched this documentary called Tapped, which is something I recommend for all of y'all to watch. It deconstructs the myths of tap water. And I talked about how I was in APES and how that changed my whole perspective on the environment. Throughout the essay, I had fun with my language. And then I also talked about how I was an environmental club officer in this essay as well. And then my last paragraph was about me being proactive. And I talked about my summer of traveling where I went to Costa Rica and I actually interviewed my tour guide in Spanish. I took Spanish in middle school, but I also took it throughout all 4 years of high school. And I talked about how I actually used that Spanish and took advantage of my opportunity to go to Costa Rica, and I interviewed my tour guide in Spanish. Again, if you guys want me to upload the mini documentary on sustainability that I talked about throughout this whole freaking application, I'll do that. And the conclusion of the essay was about how I move forward from my ethical dilemma, and how even though I got to go to Costa Rica and interview all these people in Spanish and do all this cool stuff, that documentary was lacking the intimacy that I desired it to have. And I said that resuming my routine of going to school and ultimately Wednesday morning track practice allowed me to confront a global problem in my own kitchen. It was an ethical dilemma involving a choice between the convenience of a disposable water bottle and a reusable thermos that put into perspective the main struggle of our industrialized world. Last sentence was, the simple act of filling a water bottle instead of buying one is something everyone can do. And it became my focus to relay those simple eco-friendly lifestyle changes to viewers of not only my amateur documentary, but to those around me in my everyday life. So that just shows how I concluded the essay talking about the ethical dilemma and how I want to move forward and pursue that in my professional life. So that was my main Common App essay. For the UC application, we had to do 4 of those. So the first question I answered on my UC application was, describe an example of your leadership experience in which you have positively influenced others, helped resolve disputes, or contributed to group efforts over time. I just talked about how I excelled in a new field, or when I switched from playing volleyball freshman year to doing track, and how I just kind of made myself get involved in that new team, and I really embraced it. And then my second essay was, describe the most significant challenge you have faced and the steps you have taken to overcome the challenge. How has this challenge affected your academic achievement? I talked about taking advantage of my situation as being the daughter of diplomats and having to move a lot. I was born in the dawn of Turkey. I lived in Germany, North Dakota, all over the place. So I really had to adapt to new situations quickly, and I talked about how I kind of resented that at a point, but as I got older, I matured, and I realized that is such an amazing upbringing that I had, and I really started to take advantage of that, and now I actively seek to breach my comfort zone and get out and explore now. My third essay was think about an academic subject that inspires you. Describe how you have furthered this. But it was basically the same essay I wrote for my Common App essay about the water bottle, and like how my environmental science class inspired me to like go out and like do that little documentary thing. And then my fourth essay was, beyond what has already been shared in your application, what do you believe makes you stand out as a strong candidate for admissions to the University of California? And I wrote about having grit. Like, my first line says, I have grit, a term my track coach often referenced when finishing a workout seemed impossible. And I just kind of talked about how that word, grit, describes my personality and how I've been throughout my whole life. I basically made a timeline of like my entrepreneurial pursuits and how I used to sell like duct tape wallets in freaking 3rd grade. Grit is defined as the perseverance and passion for long-term goals. So again, just an essay about ambition basically. My last section is about rec letters. Again, people always tell you, ask the teachers that you like love the most, ask the teachers that you have the closest relationships to. For me, I didn't have any teachers that like stuck out in my mind as like, oh my god, like I love y'all, like I'm best friends with these teachers. But I chose 2 teachers that were my junior year teachers. Throughout junior years, when you really need to be like trying to make good connections with your teachers, because if you ask a teacher from like freshman or sophomore year that you're not as connected with, their recommendation is not going to be as good as someone that you have known like freshly. And a senior year teacher doesn't really know you yet at the point in the year when you're going to be asking for these letters, which is like September, October. I asked my US history teacher, since I worked with him on the research project, and I also did pretty well in the class, and I was just very active, and it was a subject I liked. Like, I like history. So he's a teacher that I stayed in contact with through my senior year as well. So he knew me my junior year, and I also went back to him senior year. We weren't like best friends, but I said hi to him in the hallways. Like, I made sure to continue that relationship, and I also continued that research project. And he was also the academic like advisor for the multicultural club that I was an officer in. So he saw me with leadership positions. He like knew how I worked. He could write a good letter. Make sure you choose a teacher that can write. If you choose an English teacher, that's great, but just know that they're gonna have to write a lot of applications because they're English teachers. Like, they know how to use their words really well. And then for my second recommendation, I used my my junior year art teacher, the one that gave me the letter K in art. I chose her again because I knew she liked me back. Like, she gave me that award because I was a good student in her class and she thought I had potential to go further. She was also a teacher that taught me a lot about art. It was a design teacher. I'm applying as an architecture major. Again, I need some design. So I chose an academic teacher and then a like design related teacher. When you're asking these teachers for recommendations, again, be respectful about it. Do it in person. And I also included a resume, which basically had like my work experience and like my extracurriculars, like all that stuff on there, just so they could like have a guide of what to write about. Because just because they knew you like 1 year of your life doesn't mean that they can like talk about you as a whole person, because they don't really know what you did before you met them or what you've been doing since you left their class. So just include that resume to give them a little bit more to talk about and like connect the dots. And since I applied as an architecture major to these schools, a lot of the schools required a separate application for the architecture school. Like, I know USC required a whole ass application that was just as long as my Common App, and I had to submit pictures of my work. I had to write extra essays. Some schools made me get extra recommendation letters. So having to do 2 applications again made my admissions process a little bit different from most people's. Both schools, the architecture school and the admissions board of USC as a whole, had to review my application and both accept me. For the most part, most of the UC schools I got into, like Berkeley and UC Santa Barbara, Davis, they didn't require architecture applications, but I know Northeastern, Syracuse, and USC, schools like that were on the Common App, did require separate supplemental application. And if you're doing a design major, that's usually going to happen, just because you have to make sure that you do have some background in art. Schools wanted different things. Some schools even wanted 2D work, some schools favored 3D work. If you guys want me to do a whole like video explaining my portfolio, I can talk about that. But for this video, I just wanted to focus on like my high school stats. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. I know it was long. It was kind of awkward talking about like myself in high school. I'm definitely gonna be like vlogging and making videos about my moving experience and like just my time living at USC, like days in life, all that stuff. And if you have any more questions, like literally any more questions, feel free to leave a comment down below suggesting something, asking something, or you can follow me on Instagram, social media, or whatever. DM me. I know a couple of people have DM'd me urging me to make this video. Here you go, guys. I do respond to DMs. Take advantage of me as your big sis, your college counselor. I don't have all the answers. I have been through the process and it was successful. So literally reach out to me for anything. So stay tuned, and I'll see you guys again in my next video. Bye.